Okay, everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 and final of the not even sort of, hardly, kind of, even, not even, maybe a mystery motor at this point. This is going to be the video where I put everything back as good as I could. I put everything back as best as it was explained to me on the one little resource, a computer online manual that I found, which was mostly, it seemed to be in German. And so, but they did have English blurbs under there. I've noticed that the German written instructions on it would be this big, and then the English spoken or written part of it would be that big. But it was enough. It was enough to get me over the hurdles that I couldn't get around. So this is going to be part 2, and you might just be surprised whether, or you might be surprised at what you're expecting. Sometimes not everything goes the way planned, but whatever it is, this way, that way, you're going to see it. So hopefully you watched part 1, and this is going to be part 2 and final on the, it ain't hardly a mystery, not sure it ever was a mystery motor, but again, for me, it was a treat. I found all the good in it, and that's all I was looking for. Beautiful. There was some of the things that I found in it were actually beautifully done, well done. Some of the others, not so much, but I've had fun with it, and that's what's important. And that's what's important for any of these outboard projects, to me. And the one thing that I'm hoping I'm sharing with you out there is that, you know, if you've looked at any of my videos in the past, getting a young person, getting an old John boat or whatever, and finding an old outboard and going through the outboard with that young person, and together, you know, father, daughter, father, son, family, getting the little outboard from a maybe non-running state to a running state, and then taking it out on a lake, and seeing the face of that young person light up for the first time that they've driven an outboard. That's why I do this channel. Really, it is. I also do it for, hopefully I can help somebody out mechanically that's having difficulty with a problem that I've already had to challenge myself with, and it'll just make it easier on somebody. So, but the big thing is, take a young person out, get them on the water, and let them drive the boat for the first time. There's songs about it. It can be life-changing for a young person to sit back there and drive that boat, and mom or dad or whoever's up there watching them, and just the expression on their face is going to say it all. So it's a cheap venue to get into with a young person or two, and can be a whole lot of fun. So that's what the channel's about. This is part 2 of the was a mystery, kind of, sort of, not so much a mystery anymore motor. So in this video, I'll take you through the end. What you see here is what I ended up with. So hope you enjoy watching it. Thanks for watching. Okay, we got the hood off. One of the things that I had to do in order to get this thing going was I had to put an Evinrude quick connect so I could get fuel to it. I had to build a little special wrench to get that bottom nut off the carburetor when I first got it and got it running. And of course then I pulled the power head and I could get at it really easy. But odd things about this motor, and there are plenty of them. If you notice the bottom carburetor nut there, and on the top it's an Allen head nut. You'll find that throughout this motor. Here's one, you see that? It's got a nut. That's got an Allen head. Alright, another thing that I found just harder to work with than I'm normally used to. As you can see, such as this bracket here, there's an Allen head, and below it is a nut. If you look at the head cover plate, same thing, a bolt and a nut. So I found that throughout the motor. In many places on the same component they would have Allen head bolt heads and then regular bolt heads. And then just about everything on here has a nut behind it. Or up under it. Like this one would have a nut up under that part right there. So that was a little different. Something else I had to do was, if you notice, that's the original fuel pump, but you'll notice there's nothing hooked to the outlet there. And the original inlet was right there. I don't know if you can tell if that's threaded or not, but it was threaded. And you can see this big thick gasket right here. I put that in there. And if you notice this big fat part right here, well, that's how the fuel pump operates. The diaphragms is off the pulse from the engine. So behind those two bolts, you can see the big thick gasket is a hole. So as the piston goes up and down, it creates a pulse that runs this fuel pump. Well, the diaphragms in this fuel pump were shot, and I couldn't find any. So I drilled a hole in this fat part right here. I drilled a hole. So now I had an L-shaped hole that went into the fuel pump. I took out the old diaphragms and everything that were completely roached and just crusty and hard and completely no good. Now I had an L-shaped hole. I took the nipple out of here and I tapped this hole I drilled for us. Well, I didn't need to take the nipple out of there, but I did. But anyway, I put another nipple that was smaller and I tapped it a 1/4 right here. Then I put this big fat gasket and I used the bottom of the fuel pump just as a cover clamp. So this gasket right here is solid. So now the pulse happens right here in the top part of this old fuel pump and provides pulse to this hose, which comes out to here and provides pulse. And here is the fuel coming in to this fuel pump. This is off a Briggs & Stratton, or no, this is off a Honda GCX Series 160 pressure washer motor. You'll also find them on many Briggs & Stratton riding lawnmowers and stuff like that. It's just a diaphragm fuel pump made out of plastic. And so now the fuel comes, I don't know if you can see it, there's the fuel hose, and then I put a filter, and then it comes to the carburetor. So I then built a bracket and mounted the fuel pump here, nice and it's
it's nice there. It's not in the way of anything. So I now got a lawnmower engine, so to speak, diaphragm fuel pump. You can buy these off the inner screen there for, I don't know, 15, 20 bucks tops. But many old riding lawnmowers, Briggs & Strattons, Hondas, and different things, all the GC series Hondas on pressure washers and generators will have that fuel pump. So I save them off of that. So I bypassed that fuel pump. The only thing I'm using the fuel pump for is to operate the pulse from the engine block through to there. And that gets me a fuel pump. What else did we do in here? Oh, gaskets. I had to cut many of my own gaskets, like for that exhaust port there. I had to cut that gasket, very time consuming, making all the little proper channels and everything for it, so it could cool. When I got the motor, it wasn't it wasn't peeing at all. This motor also comes with the shifter in the handle, which I don't like. I like to rev my motor, and so I bypassed that. And the way I did that was I took a slide where the tiller handle comes through there. There's two slides, one that operates the bell crank for the butterfly valve on the carburetor, and one that operates the shifter. Well, I took the one that operates the shifter out, so now it just operates the carburetor. I then built this shift handle, and you can see how much longer it is. The original handle stopped right there where that weld stops. So it was way down here, and they're a little short contraption, and the reason why they did it that way is so that you could hook it to remote cable operation from an operator station via this bracket here, right there. And that would then go into a little ball that was on top of here. Here's the original shifter and what they look like. And I took that off. Well, I didn't take it off of that one, but I took it off the Archimedes. For one, it's too short. I made mine where it comes much over. You can see right here's the bottom of the power head. So you kind of had to reach way down if you were using this. But if you had the tiller in the shift, when you do the tiller shift, it operates that lever as well. You can see how that works. Well, I like to rev my motor, so I just disabled that. And this is off one of the other Pentas that I have, and I'll show you the hood and everything to that. But if it wasn't for these parts, such as that and different things, I would not have been able to get this motor running like I did. So there's my shifter. I even put a piece of black fuel hose that has a nice orange stripe, keeping with the orange and black, or orange and gray color scheme. That propeller is the original color that they would come with. They were orange. And so, of course, I had to rethread all these, the transom clamps, put a new handle on there. It's not matching, but it's one I had. The carburetor, cleaned it until I got it. It comes with extra shear pins and cotter pins and a little bracket right there, which is kind of neat. I believe this one is like not only a long shaft, but I think it might be an extra long shaft. I haven't measured it, but it just seems like a really tall engine. So a lot of gasket cutting and a lot of just different little things that I had to do to get it running nice and all. But it's a nice example of these motors. I don't know the years or when they were last made. I'm guessing this is a mid-70s, early 80s at the newest. And so I painted every piece. That is the original color paint, or at least as close as you can get. And I bought that at Walmart. It's called metallic charcoal. And I mean, it matched. Like that right there on the tiller, I have not painted. That's original. And then you can see the other original colors. Like I painted that. I did not paint that. So, I mean, it's as close as you would get. And the fact that it came off the shelf rattle can is amazing. But there it is. I'm going to turn you. SBM Boat Motors. Serial number there. Uppsala, Sweden. Probably pronounced it wrong, but Swedish engineering at its finest. So, one other note is that the way this thing's designed, you can't pull the head. That's just a cover plate. The pistons have to come out through splitting the crankshaft. So, which, you know, that's no big deal really. But it also has an onboard lightering coil up under there to provide battery charging through those little terminals there. I haven't messed with that, but that's the way I understand it. So let's get her in the tank and give her a run. And that's the Archimedes Penta, or Archimedes, not exactly sure how you pronounce it. And here's one of my other parts ones. A Volvo Penta 200, which means 20 horsepower, just like the 140 means 14 horsepower. So that's just the hood. There's some of the leftovers on it. And I may change that throttle shift thing back out. I don't know. I do like to rev the motors. But, oh, motor mounts. That's another thing that was really tough on this motor. It comes with 6 different motor mounts. And they're not really motor mounts. They're AV mounts, anti-vibration mounts that really just hold the lower pan to the power head, which I found really difficult to deal with. All right, you can see them there. Okay, let me get my other littler flashlight. If I can find one. All right. There they are. And there is a total of 6 of these. There's 1, 2. There's 2 on the other side. And then there's 2 right down in there. 1 there, 1 there. And if you notice, they got brand new stainless bolts coming up through them. Well, that's the same on the front. I just took different stainless bolts, carriage bolts, drilled the hole out bigger for the bolts. Then I had to drill through the rubber mounts to make that hole bigger. And then I had to drill this handle and this bracket here. These all come off. And I mean, if I ever wished I had 6 hands and 10 fingers per hand, it was doing this. You can see the new bolts in there. So you have to put all this together as a unit. And I bet it took me 2 hours before I finally got it. Because you can see there's the power head bolts. So this is all these AV mounts are just holding that bracket and the pan. And there's 6 of them. And you got to get them all 6 kind of going through together and through that piece and that piece. Fairly difficult, but I got it done. So the motor mounts were a little bit tough. Other than that, I'd say it's, you know, pretty straightforward engine. The thing with the motor is, of course, parts availability. Unless you have access to, you know, a couple donor motors for the parts, it would be tough to maintain one of these in a running state. So I'll be right back. We'll get her set up and do a test run. give you a good look there. You'll probably notice some things. Okay, so that'll wrap up the not so mystery motor. There may be a lot of these in your neck of the woods. For me, they're few and far between. So when this one came in and I was able to get the cylinders free, I had hope for it. And if anybody knows the year or how you would date the year of manufacture, I would love to know that. Beautiful little motor, came out better than I had hoped when I first started. When I had gotten the midsections apart and found the dual water pumps inside there and the dual water pickup tubes and the 4 elongated bolts that hold that center long section on, it was, I knew right then, and the fact it was just so salty, I knew it was going to be a challenge. But you can bet now there's probably a pint or better of anti-seize in that motor. everything on it was coated with anti-seize before it went back together, so she would come apart nice now. And the other interesting thing with this motor is where the shift link disconnects to get the pieces apart is at the very bottom foot of the unit. I think I still have it in here. Yeah, let me show you. When I say foot, this is what I'm talking about. That's where the shift link disconnects from, right down in there. You can't really see it, but there's a little stair step clip that goes into the very bottom of the foot, and that's where you have to break this loose in order to get the shift rod to let the pieces come apart. Well, that took me 2 days to figure out. Now why don't I just go over to the manual and look it up and go, okay. Well, I have never found a manual for this motor. I've looked online everywhere. I did find an online manual for it, and it saved me. So if anybody has one of these and they're messing with one of these and they would like that that manual, and it's really good, and it's of this very engine. Actually, it covers this one and the 200, I think, and it was a godsend, because without it, I don't know that I'd ever figured that. Well, I guess I would have, because I'd have just kept taking it apart. But that's where the shift rod disconnects, so it goes down through all that to the very bottom of that little foot section, and then there's a way to get it out of there. And that's about all I can think on it. If you have any questions, just reply, and I'll try and answer them. And like I said, I think it's a good little motor. The only thing that I would caution against is if you found one of these at a yard sale, flea market, or whatever, unless you have, and I know I've said this once, I'm going to say it again, unless you had a way to get parts, you're savvy and you don't mind fabricating parts, then this motor would be very difficult for you, because like I said, most of it you can overcome with a lawnmower fuel pump or whatever, building your own shift handles. The simple stuff you can overcome.
But if there was internal parts and things like that that you needed, it would be very tough, I think, unless you had a couple donors. I luckily saved a couple from the years past and was able to get this one up running, and it came out really nice. So there's the mystery motor up and running, and a beautiful example of Swedish, German, I guess, Swedish engineering. So I'll give you one last look. Thanks for watching, and there you go. Archimedes Penta 140. And there is no decimal point. Okay, that's a wrap on the Archimedes 14 or 140. I think it came out really good. So I'm going to give you one last quick view of it, and I think it, you know, for what it is, it came out really good. So let's look at it one more time. Oh, sorry about that. There you go. There it is. How beautiful. Oh. Orange propeller. Gotta love it. Got to love it. Extended shift. Well, maybe not, but I like it. But what a beautiful outboard. So there's one more last shot of it. Thanks for watching. What a beautiful outboard.